Hi. Hello. I'm Colin, and you're watching my Flosstube channel, Stitch Apocalypse. This is my 11th video. Today, Sunday, the 24th? I don't know. It honestly doesn't matter. There are a couple things happening today, which means that this video will probably be a little bit more limited than usual. One is that I am starting classes again tomorrow, and so I've been stitching really crazy for the past 3 weeks, the past few weeks, we'll say. Just because I want to really, there were some specific things that I wanted to get done, and so I tried to do them. I don't need to explain to you how goals work. And so that means that today I have one finish and I have one finish and 6 whips that I've worked on, which is much more than I usually have. And I also have an additional piece that I'm going to talk about and I guess talk through getting rid of, and not stitching anymore, which is something that I did for my Fruits of Plenty. And I think just talking about it out loud really validated me that the thoughts that I was having about what's that called? UFOing it? No, because it literally just throwing it away. Although I don't know if I'll throw it away. There's another piece, so there are 8 pieces that I want to talk about. And so this video will probably be a lot less things related to things outside of just showing stitching and talking about the stitching that I'm showing you, because I just have so much that I want to talk about. Another one is that in maybe 2 hours I am going to a friend of mine's birthday / going away party, and so I am on kind of a time crunch with the video. It'll probably still end up being an hour-long video because I can't seem to limit myself when it comes to talking. I just love to gab. I'm just a girl who gabs. But that does mean that I very explicitly did not planned on not talking about the stuff I talk about in a lot of my other videos. Reading, things I've been watching, just general thoughts, any interest, whatever. So we're gonna get into the stitching. I'll just start showing you some stitching and we'll talk about it. The first thing I have to show you is a finish. I'm gonna put I don't know, I guess we'll decide what side. I'll decide at a later time what side of the screen the image will go up on. But this is a finish of Strawberry Bird by Barrick. It's not a fully finish, but I started this as part of the Strawberry Moon Sal hosted by Marjorie Maid, which is a sal that she does every year in June, where you stitch something that has a strawberry on it. My goal was to start and finish this all within summer. Hopefully I will be able to fully finish this in the next 3 weeks. And then I will fully finish it within the season, which would be very exciting. I am going to show you, I'll just show you the stitching. I'm doing this with my own conversion. Really just boosting sort of the bright primary colors of the piece and reducing the, I guess it's the more limited palette. Oh, and I'm stitching it, I'll show you later, as a mobile, so it doesn't actually look, this stitching I'm showing you doesn't look anything like the image that I put on the screen, but this is what my stitching looks like. I'll show you some close-ups. Oh, focus. So there's the bird and some of the branches and the wing here, and then a few of the loose strawberries. This image was also charted with French knots on these strawberries, and I tried it out and I put some of them in and I actually didn't like how it looked. So I left those ones French knotless, but I did put French knots on these ones down here. And so it kind of looks like that. And so I'm going to cut out the individual pieces and turn it into mobile. It probably won't look much like this. Oh, I'm really struggling with the focus issues today. So there we go. And so it'll probably look something like that. Oh, I am really struggling with focus issues today, but it'll look something like that. Yeah, and so I started this on June 2nd, 2025, and then I finished it August 20th. And this is my Traveler's Company book that I use to track all my stitching. I also have a calendar insert, and then I have a graph paper insert for when I try out different charting for things I'm changing. I have really loved stitching this. I would not say I'm someone who is particularly drawn to like really primitive pieces, particularly the colors that people chart like prim stuff with. I find them just kind of dull, overly gray, overly brown, and so it was quite fun to like boost these colors pretty intensely. Here's what the back looks like. Come on. And the back of the wing and the back of the strawberries. Yeah, so I'm hoping I can fully finish this within the next like couple weeks. I'm gonna do them like kind of lightly stuffed pillows with a wool that I have. Yeah, I don't know, to me this piece, like, I enjoyed stitching it. Oh, I do have something new to show you about it. Because I'm like now planning on finishing it, I went to the fabric store that's, I don't know if I want to say near my house, but certainly like in Pittsburgh, Firecracker Fabrics, and they had this, which is this kind of really bright, like blood orange fabric with little strawberries on it. And so I'm gonna be putting it like, and so that's what I'm gonna be backing it with. And so that's like what, I don't know why I didn't do it right side up, but those are kind of, that's kind of just how it'll go together. I love Firecracker Fabrics. I buy most of my fabric from there. They have really amazing customer service. There's like the one woman who works there who is not the owner, who is just like incredibly sweet, and definitely like when I have questions, she's really good about like giving me advice and helping me out. But also when I don't have questions, she's really good at like leaving me the fuck alone. And to me, that's really what I'm looking for from someone who's working in a store like that. Yeah, that is Strawberry Bird by Kathy Barrick, which is a finish. Huzzah! While I was filming my last Flosstube, I think that day I had started working again on CRS 1713 Part 2 by Jan Hicks Creates. This is a really large sampler that exists in 4 parts. It's a reproduction. I'm stitching it on a piece of fabric that is technically not an even weave, that I got at a fabric jobber outside of Providence called Lorraine's that is amazing. I'm stitching this with, and it comes out to like maybe like a 17 or like an 18 count. It's not an even weave, so parts of it are a little bit different. And I stitched on this a ton. This was something that I had been staying motivated with the last couple times I had worked on it, and had only done like a small amount of stitching in each like period of time that I had stitched on it, but this recent time that I pulled it out, I stitched a ton. And so this is what it looks like now. And I worked down here. So I did this pelican and this bird as well. And I know, wait, let me pull this up and then focus it and then we can talk about it. And I know you're like looking at this and you're saying like, Colin, that's a swan, that's a swan. And Jan Hicks thought the same thing and she says it in the description. And I'm just here to tell you that actually that's a pelican. And this motif, I'm gonna turn it so you can see it. Like, this isn't how it is situated on the sampler, but it is how it's situated as like a motif. But so this motif here, oh my God, I'm really losing my mind. And I'm so out of focus. I don't know why my camera's like doing this focus shit. I think I fixed it. So this motif here, which I was like very excited to get going towards. I'm gonna maybe hold it over here so you can see me and the motif at the same time. So this motif here is called the Pelican and Her Piety. And it is a, oh, and I did make a color change. So for this one, I am stitching it mostly with the Call for Colors. I mean, I'm stitching it mostly with the Call for Colors, but I did add this red color. So this is called the Pelican, and I'll tell you why. This is called the Pelican in Her Piety, and it is a pagan symbol, which was then like co-opted by Christians. At some point in history, I don't remember off the top of my head. And essentially at some point there was like an old wives' tale that pelicans were capable of stabbing themselves with their own beak, and the blood from the mother pelican, she would be able to like feed it to her own children, which would bring them back to life. Like if they were starving or if they were ill, that like her blood was sort of the, I mean, they wouldn't have said medicine, but like the tincture that would have healed her baby pelicans. And so like in this motif, you can see her actually stabbing her own stomach with her beak, and the blood coming out and going kind of directly into her baby bird's mouth. This was charted not with this red color, but with like a much more subdued color. And I think that it's a really funny motif, and I think it's a really funny story. And I think that like I really wanted it to be like true to that like wives' tale fable narrative. And so I like boosted the red color. And so now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use this red in other places too, because it feels strange to me to use like just this tiny little bit of red for this one motif. I'll probably put it, there's like alphabets down here, and I'll probably like do some of the alphabets in this color. And then I also stitched this bird, which I don't know anything about this motif, don't ask me what it's called, but I also stitched this bird. So as you can see, I got like I got quite a lot of progress on this. And I'll show you the back. So this is what the back looks like. Yeah, so I'm mostly stitching it called for. I am making some changes, just like putting my own, like duplicating the motifs that contain CRS, who is the girl who stitched this originally. The motifs that contain her initials, I'm duplicating them and doing them with my own initials as well. Oh, and the thing I wanted to say about the pelican is that, yeah, so it was like this pagan motif, and it was like co-opted by Christians as like a symbol of like Jesus's sacrifice for humanity and like his like death, which I mean, like all of those like like the entirety of like religious myth making and co-option. Like, it's a loose narrative, which then gets kind of stronger over time, and now it's just like you'll see it on churches everywhere and anywhere, and people don't even know what it means, and they think it's a swan, and they think it's, yeah. But yeah, I was very excited to stitch this. I have been really excited about the pelican or piety since I found out about it, and I have. And yeah, I think it just looks really good. Anyway, that is CRS 1713 by Jan Hicks Creates. Yeah, I was struggling with this one. Maybe struggling is not the right word, but I was not feeling as motivated to stitch it as I was. There was like something about it that I wasn't enjoying. I think a lot of these motifs are very similar and a lot less like picture based, and so there was a lot less variety in terms of stitching them. And so like these motifs up here contain a lot of the same sort of building blocks that like build the images. Like this kind of 8 flower is like here, and then it's like the 8 petal flower is like here, and then also like down here, and yeah, and like these sort of half is also all over it. And yeah, so I think I was kind of struggling with being like, okay, I'm actually just stitching the exact same thing kind of over and over. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm kind of stitching new stuff, and that's been really exciting. After that, I worked on Franzi 1870 by Reflet Soie. I show this in every video. I work on it all the time. It's probably my most touched piece this year. I started it in January, and I've kind of worked on it consistently throughout. And I just did one of the block motifs down, and so this is what it looks like now. And so this most recent time I stitched this that I worked on. I stitched this like black and red. I don't quite know what these are. I was going to work on this motif here, but it's actually not cross stitch. It's a, I give you a look, ooh. Like here, it's actually not a cross stitched motif. And I have been stitching this like 2/2, and then the larger motifs on the bottom I've been stitching 4/4. And I found that because this isn't actually cross stitch and is like various other kinds of stitching, that even the 4/4 was like too, it wasn't dense enough for what I was looking for from this motif. And so once I realized that, then I set out to buy some different flosses to just kind of like experiment, and I did the motif that I actually did, which is this one here. And then this is what the back of that looks like. Oh. I love Francie so much. I love stitching on Francie. Oh, but yeah, I guess I'm kind of circular today. I'm a little bit stressed about classes starting tomorrow, and I've had kind of a crazy week, just with all the things happening and trying to prep for school and my personal life and my job and whatever. And yeah, so I'm a little bit like on edge. My hair kind of looks like shit today, which I don't like. A bad hair day really like ruins your whole day. Like, the thing is, it actually doesn't matter how many good things happen today. At best, it'll be like a pretty good day because I just like don't like the way my hair looks. Those are my thoughts. But I ended up getting this DMC Pearl Cotton. I think it's the number 3, which is the biggest one. And I'm gonna try that. And I might stitch, and I know you're supposed to only stitch it with like the one, but I might double it up. And I might stitch it with two and get like this really dense, really crazy, really puffy stitch for the parts of it that aren't cross stitch, and also maybe for some of the ones that are. But like this is definitely done, this one here is definitely done in some kind of wool, like really thick wool, almost like yarn wool. And this one probably is too. But the thing is, like, I like that the DMC colors are the same across the different, I mean, they're all cotton, but they're the same across the different types of cotton. And so I was apprehensive about getting like a thick wool because I didn't feel like the colors would match, and I would feel like that like one specific motif or two specific motifs would, I guess, stand out in a really crazy way. I'll show you like what I'm talking about. Okay, so here is like our classic like DMC 6-strand embroidery floss, right? This is number 919. And so that's what it looks like. But, and here is the pearl cotton. And as you can tell, they're like exactly the same color. And I like that. And so I like that I can have like a much thicker, much puffier, almost like crewel kind of look. And have it match the cross stitch that's happening on the same sampler. And so that's why I'm not doing it in wool. I know that there are people who are like, it's not as historically accurate, and you're right, it's not. They would have, but they also would have stitched it in silk. Anyway, here is what it looks like now. I just love this piece so much. And every time I work on it, I just get so excited. And it just looks so good. Yeah, and so that's Franzi 1870 by Reflet Soie. Oh, I will talk about something else. I don't really like doing haul. It's not something that I don't think I buy enough stuff to have like a dedicated haul section of my Flosstube video. And I also don't feel like I want huge portions of my Flosstube videos to just be like, look at all the money I spent, because I actually don't have that much money, and I'm actually not spending that much money. You guys, I'm sure there are people out there who know what I mean. And so I don't really like showing stuff that like I'm not actively stitching on, but I am gonna talk about this. Oh my god, another piece. I'm gonna be late to the party. I have been having this idea of having like a companion piece to Francie. I'm not gonna start it at least for another like 6 months. So this is really like, I guess you are seeing how I think some people like buy, we'll go back and then forth. I plan my starts out really far in advance. And I don't have a lot of stuff kitted up. I don't have a huge stash of charts. I have maybe not a substantial stash of fabric, but I certainly have fabric. And one of the things that I don't like doing is like buying stuff impulsively. And so like I am comfortable kitting up something like this, even though I probably won't start it for like a year plus, because I just know that I will want to. And so I have been sort of thinking about having a companion piece to Franzi that's maybe similar in some ways and very different in other ways, but in the way that it's kind of just like throwing together different motifs and having this like section, this like woolwork section at the bottom that is like stylistically and thematically not all that connected to the section up here. And so I've gotten 2 charts, both from Reflet Soie, because I love Reflet Soie, and I think that there was a period of time in like maybe 2014, 2015, when were these charted? Because Franzi was in 2018 and 2019. Yeah, I think that their more recent charts speak to me a lot less. I think y'all went real crazy for the alphabet sampler, and now they're charging a lot of alphabet samplers because they sell really well, and like I can't hate them for that, but whatever. And so I had this idea of having these two charts, Jardins Italiens, Jardins, I don't know. I think this is, I'm sure this is like Italian garden. I'll put like a, I don't know, something other. And then this Woolwork sampler, which looks like that. And I have this idea of kind of combining them, pulling motifs out of both, and stitching it on the same fabric count, which is 32 count flax by Zweigart, and doing it in kind of a similar size, but having these Woolwork and picking out the Woolwork charts, the charts motifs. Oh my god. Pulling out these Woolwork motifs and having them run down one of the sides, as opposed to Franzi, which they're all kind of on the bottom. And also there's like kind of a red, blue, like a pink, like a red and green, pink and blue thing that I am very intrigued by, because like these are both very blue heavy charts. And Franzi is like a very red heavy chart, and probably changing the colors of them to match more closely. But yeah, I just I saw this. Someone in a comment on my Flosstube at one point said that they were stitching this and that it was like the Franzi's conservative sister or something like that. Or I might just be making that part up, and they said they were stitching it and they were similar, but this was less extreme. I'm describing it as Franzi's more conservative sister. The colors are much more muted. The images are much more chaste. But yeah, so I'm in thinking of this, and then this, which I just think some of these motifs are so amazing. Particularly like this one here, which I will definitely be doing. And also probably like these more geometric ones that I feel very drawn to. I don't know, but that's just kind of you will not see these for a long time. I guess maybe that gives you more of an insight into how far ahead I'm thinking about my stitching and how I am coming to it. I don't know how far ahead I'm thinking about my stitching and nothing else, because I actually don't have anything else to say about it, and I don't know why I said and. Oh, I'm so excited to show you this next one. I have so many more projects to show you. I don't like stitching on a ton of different things. It kind of stresses me out. I am now showing my 4th Reflet swap chart in a row. After that, I worked on Anno 1817 by Reflet Soie. I started this on my birthday last year. It was my birthday start. I had no intention of finishing it by my birthday this year, which is today's the 24th, so a month from now, which my birthday's on the 23rd. I had no intention of finishing this in 1 year and having this be like a piece that I just like stitched from birthday to birthday, and that was it. And now I'm kind of disappointed that I wasn't more intense about being like, I'm gonna only stitch it for 1 year and then it'll be finished. Because if it was like the only thing I stitched on for weeks and weeks, it would definitely be done. And so there's something kind of frustrating about that. But I have gotten a lot of stitching on this. This is a mending sampler. I'm stitching it on 32 count smoky white by Zweigart, because everything I stitch is done on Zweigart. And I'm stitching it with Rainbow Gallery silks, which I was then unhappy with the way that the silks were more slippery, and it made the mending portions more difficult to stitch, and they held up worse. And so the thing is, I say about halfway I changed it, but the reality is I had only stitched like maybe a 5th or a 6th of it in silk. It was just so much harder that in my head, about half the work I did is in the small silk section, and then the other half the work is on the much larger cotton section, which I've been working on. And here's what it looks like. I always need to get my board out for this, and it's so big, and I'm so annoyed by it. The Flosstube demands it. Yeah. Oh. So this is how it looks. Most recently I stitched the neon green portion of this motif here and the entirety of this motif here and also the whole bottom border. And I will give you a close-up of some of these motifs now that I am done with that and I don't need the board. I'm getting somewhat fever on this piece. So that is what that portion looks like. And then this bottom portion, that is what that looks like. And so this is a mending sampler. Let me refocus on my face. This is a mending sampler, which means that it's a way of learning a skill to repair woven items where you stitch into here and then float the thread over top of the place where the hole would be and then stitch it in. And then you go in the other direction and you float it and then you weave the stitches through the floating section and so you end up with this like woven portion in the middle, which is how you get things that look like this, where you can see the two patterns happening kind of simultaneously. So you can get the woven pattern and also the stripe pattern happening at the same time. Yeah, so I'm doing this in my own color conversion. I am loving this. What I was saying about I wish I had been more good about, I wish I had been more good. I wish I'd been better about stitching on it more consistently because I definitely could have it done by my birthday. And it would be nice to have it done by my birthday because I'm starting something new on my birthday. But I think that I will probably need maybe 4 more like periods of time where I'm working on it before it's like done. And with me starting school tomorrow, I do not think that I will be able to fit that in. I also squished the sampler some. There was a much larger section in the middle with a much larger border and more images. I don't quite know what I'm gonna put in the middle. I am gonna take some of the motifs from the original sampler and put them in, but I'm unsure which ones. But so this is what the original charting looked like. And we've reached the point now where I'm like kind of just doing my own thing, both with the actual stitching on the motifs and with the colors. So there is no like one-to-one conversion because quite frankly at this point it's like my own piece that is like inspired by the chart. And the last time I was working on this, I described it as like Dark Souls in the sense that it's really, really hard. And then over time, as you get better at it, it becomes really, really fun, really satisfying. And I think that at this point I have really hit like I am good at stitching this kind of stuff. I am good at mending. I could mend anything. I could mend any woven item really confidently and not have it take a crazy amount of time to do it. And so there's something really exciting about this piece that I like struggled so much on and really like blood, sweat, and tears this piece. I mean, I literally bled on it. And now it just being something that I'm doing solely for fun, that I pull it out and I stitch on it and I just have so much fun. And I want to say that this motif here is the one that put me over that edge, because this one is by far the hardest motif, and the two patterns are like conflicting, and this pattern, the stitching pattern that goes up and down, is actually not a repeat pattern. Every symbol is different, and so you really, really have to pay close attention, and also it's really hard. But I did it, and I did it really well, and it just looks so amazing. And so now Anno 1787 it's just fun. It's just a fun piece to stitch, and it's not hard. So I guess it's not Dark Souls anymore. Here's what the back looks like. You can tell I only did these a couple weeks ago, these two motifs, and so I'm still letting the bits here kind of hang out while the fabric settles, and then I'll cut them short like I have the other motifs. But yeah, it just looks so good. Even the back looks so good, and I don't know, this one's just so special to me. I think my other pieces, I'm not sad. I'm not like, bah! I'm so glad I'm done with it when I finish stuff. But I wouldn't say I'm like sad when I finish stuff either. It's just kind of like, oh cool, I finished it. And like, I feel good about finishing it, but not in like I don't want to stitch that anymore. This piece, I'm going to be sad when I finish it. I'm going to miss working on this when I finish it. And so essentially that means I probably should always be doing a mending sampler. And there aren't many charted mending samplers. And so that means that I'm gonna have to start pulling from woven objects, both in my home or like in my brain, or that I see in books or images or whatever, and just like trying to recreate them myself on a mending sampler that I'm coming up with. Not in like a I'm charting this to sell kind of way, but just in like a I can't. And so I just need to always have one to like feel that, to like fulfill that urge. And yeah, this piece is just so fun. If you can get your hands on this, or if you can get your hands on this one in particular, I like more than I've seen a couple other ones. And the thing about some of the other ones is they don't actually want you to do the mending. They just assume that you like, something's burning. But I guess the window is open and it is like a Sunday. So I'm just gonna assume that my apartment is not on fire and that actually someone is like grilling. This one, to me, I have looked at a couple other charts for other mending samplers, and this one to me is the one that is the most both clear in terms of like what your stitching should look like on the charting, and also like you're really doing it, right? It's not a like, oh, well, it looks like you're mending, but actually you're just stitching. But that's what it looks like. Thank you to Reflet. Soie. You have given me something so special that I did not... I mean, I guess I knew I wanted it because I bought it and I started it, but I would have never imagined that I would have loved this piece as much as I do. Oh, and one other thing. I started this for my birthday, and part of it was like to learn a new skill, which the skill I'm learning is mending. And part of that drive is because one of Isaac's like kind of interesting friends has like was at the time joined some sort of like queer, lesbian, trans, poly community who are made up entirely of like trades people and like HVAC techs and stuff, because with the coming apocalypse, it's good to have beautiful dykes who know how to tile a floor. I will say, to me, that like was kind of psycho to hear that they were saying that, but also kind of fun, which I think was Like, to me, like, that's kind of something I would say, and I would be saying it both, like, a little bit serious, but mostly as a joke. They visited us a while ago, and they really have, like, gone down that path, and now it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're actually just, like, in the throes of some severe, like, mental illness now. And so that was kind of sad. Anyway, sorry for being such a down. Sorry for being like, I love this piece and it's changed my life for the better. And also let me tell you about this person who now, like, I actually don't feel all that comfortable spending time around because they just are so troubled. Anyway. And that's what it looks like. Then I was kind of done with samplers, right? It had been a lot of samplers. That's a lot of samplers to be working on. It was just kind of sampler after sampler. And I really needed to work on something that wasn't a sampler. I pulled out Harisson, which I hadn't worked on in a couple months, which is one of the animal crackers by Stacy Nash. He's a little rabbit. I'm doing this with my own color conversion. Let me get back into focus now. I don't know why I'm having such focus trouble. I'm doing this with my own conversion. It's a 103 silk conversion on 46 count. I think also flax. I really need to let the flax go, but I just love it so much. To me, it's the perfect neutral. This is on 46 count flax, 1/2, with my own conversion. I am so close to being finished on this. And so that is what Harisson looks like. Ooh. What if I filmed all my... Oh. This is actually really funny. What if I filmed all my Flosstubes at this angle? Anyway, I'm gonna, yeah. You can see a little bit what my office/studio looks like. This is Harisson. Oh, sick. He is just so cute. This is what the back looks like. I enjoy stitching on this one. I actually really like stitching on the small counts. I find them, well, large numbered small size counts, but I don't have to use magnification, which is like a mega flex. But also it means that I know, but also like the fact that I don't need to use magnification means that I know there will be a point in the future where I do need to use magnification, and I probably won't like stitching on things that I need to use like intense magnification for. Yeah, so that's Harisson. Once he's finished, he will go with 2 of the other animal crackers that I have finished, which are Perroy, who is the little slug, and Miss Hazel. They look like good friends, don't they? I'm actually considering redoing Miss Hazel. Not in like a way that I'm considering doing that partner piece to Francie where I'm like, I'm actually just gonna do it. This is something I'm actually not sure I'm gonna do. I think I skewed a little bit too closely to the charted colors, and it just looks a little bit, it doesn't look me enough. And I think now that I'm more confident with my, bad hair day, now that I'm more confident with my color conversions, I think I would just pick stuff that I'm a lot more interested in, and then that would be it. And yeah, and so then it's one of those things like, why not? But I don't know. I don't know if I want to like restart it or like redo it completely. And then Proy, who maybe is more like closely related to Harisson because the grass is the same color. Like, they look like friends. Oh, okay. But that's Harisson. He is an animal cracker. I always have an animal cracker that I'm stitching on. I like them. I think they're like as close as I'm ever gonna do is to like liking something that's block stitching. And particularly with this one, the color conversion I did made it less block stitching than called for. So that's that. This next piece I'm gonna show is called a sampler, but like it doesn't stitch. The process of stitching it is very different from stitching a sampler. So I was still on my not a sampler kick, which will be for the rest of the video. And that's because I stitched on Winter Sampler from Kooler Designs, but it's designed by Sandy Orton, who is my queen, my mama, slay mama, boots, work, house, you guys know the deal. I am stitching this 3/2 on 32 count flax linen by Zweigart, and here is what my piece looks like now. I just started this last month, so this was my Christmas in July start, and I stitched this ribbon here, and then also part of this banner. And I haven't done really much backstitching yet. I am going to be backstitching as I go, but I like to have all of the stitching around the section that I'm backstitching completed before I start the backstitching, because I've convinced myself in my mind that like if I accidentally have to go over something that I backstitched with floss that I'm stitching with, that I'm actually going to have to like rip out all the backstitching and redo it. So I don't know if that's logical. I don't really want to know if that's logical. I've committed to doing it. But even here with the numbers, you can tell what numbers they are, but you can also tell that they're not completed, and that's because there's like a heavy amount of backstitching on these, which I'll show you in a second on the chart, because I don't really care that much about showing charts on screen either. So this will be a little mouse, and he is hanging onto the pendulum, which goes on a clock, which goes like up here. So if you guys want to remember what those numbers look like that I just showed you, think of them deeply in your head. Because charted, they look like this. And so you can see that there's like, it's like a heavily built out design because there is so much backstitching. But I've said this before, and honestly I'll probably just say it every time I show anything by Sandy Orton, but I just like really love the way in which it looks like nothing while you're stitching, and it's nothing, and it's nothing, and then you just put in these like two little colors, or like two little stitches of a color, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, it's exactly what it is. But you like can't tell, and to me that shows like a really, I mean, there are all kinds of things about her charting that shows that she's like a master of floss and knows better than everyone else in the whole world how to stitch design well and whatever, but yeah. And that's how it looks. I'll probably stitch on this more once it starts getting cold. And I'm not considering this, it's called a sampler, and like maybe it's a sampler, you can argue about it in the comments. I don't really consider it a sampler. The enjoyment I get from stitching on a sampler, I don't get from this, and the enjoyment I get from stitching on this, I don't get from a sampler. This is much more close to like my image-based stitching. But it's Sandy Orton, so it's actually like a totally different, whatever. You guys know the deal. This is Winter Sampler. Sandy Orton's my queen. I love her so much, and it looks amazing. And I'm not going to show you the back on this one because it is bad. Well, I might. That's what the back looks like. Okay, that's Winter Sampler. See you at Orton, baby. Baby! And then the final piece that I have been working on is, I'm just going to tell you it's Clown Dreams. I'm going to show you an image of the clown. I know sometimes people are like, I hate clowns and they scare me, so don't show me an image of a clown without warning me, and so here's me warning you. The last thing I've worked on is Clown Dreams. This is a vintage kit by Designworks. I started this last year as part of the Bring Out Your Kit sale, which was hosted by the Thread Gremlins and Jen's Fiberweb. And this is what he looks like. I stitched one of these pant legs. So this pant leg here with the blue and red patch, essentially this entire section, I have stitched in the past few days. And then I also did all the back stitching on this section here. But that's what it looks like. You can tell that this hobo clown is really going through a rough time because his shoe has a hole in it and his toes are popping out. He got them dogs out. But yeah, I just love it so much. I just think it is so funny. But that's what it looks like. I really locked in on this the past week. I started stitching on it. Oh, I guess I only stitched on it 4 days. One of the sad things about this week, well, not sad, it was happy, I guess, it was complicated, is that there actually was a day I didn't stitch. Which the last time there was a day I didn't stitch was June 14th. So on August 23rd, I did not stitch anything. And that's because I work all day, and then I came home, and then Isaac and I went out to dinner, and then, yeah, we just had a nice evening together. That's oh, I'm starting school, and you won't see me as much as you have been for the past couple months because it's been summer. Yeah, and so that's Clown Dreams by Designworks. I'm stitching on the included Ada, which was terrible at first, but now at this point I've touched it so much and moved it around so much that it's actually quite soft and can kind of, I don't know, I'm sure someone has issues with me doing that, but that's what it looks like. And I do want to talk about one final thing, which I am apprehensive about talking about. So I have really been considering getting rid of, no longer working on, and kind of just not throwing it away, but I'll just UFO it. The anniversary sampler that I've been working on for my parents. Not because I hate my parents. Or one of them died or anything like that. It just is one of those things where it's huge. I'll just show it to you. I haven't stitched on it in a while. So this is where my progress is. And it will essentially fill up this whole piece of fabric. And the thing about something like this is one, it's gigantic, right? And the work is incredibly small and incredibly delicate. And so now I'm going to talk about why I think that I should no longer be stitching on this. One, they're actually not going to appreciate the work I've done on it. I truly believe that I would show this to my parents and their response would be oh, nice. And that would be it. And it just seems really psychotic to be making someone this, be like dedicating so much time and effort to a handmade gift that the person you're making it for actually just like doesn't want it very much. They would appreciate it. I'm not saying they wouldn't appreciate it. I'm just saying that they would not appreciate the specificness of how much work this is and how huge it is and how, yeah, that's one. That's one of the reasons. The second reason, I actually just like don't like the colors very much on it. And so I don't feel pulled towards it. I don't have any sort of really strong desire to work on it because I find the colors to be kind of dull and like uninspired. And I realized that like the only reason that I wouldn't stop on it is because I have like sunk cost fallacy, right? Is that I'm like, oh, but you've dedicated so much time and effort to this thing, and so you like have to see it through. But actually, I think I could just like cut out the part that I've done and just like, it could just hang out here for the rest of my life and just be like, oh, that thing that I worked on a little bit and like never finished. The thing is I do want to make them an anniversary sampler. And that's another reason why I like wouldn't want to stop it, but I've been thinking about it and I realized that they have a couple wedding samplers in their house, and maybe like a couple of other samplers that other people have made that are like have been passed on. And this is too much compared to the things that they like from other people, right? That are much more simple, like band samplers with simple motifs. And yeah, and I guess over the past month or so, have really been coming to terms with the fact that like this specific anniversary sampler is much more about like my ego than it is about giving my parents something that they would really love for their anniversary. Yeah, now that I've said, like how I said in the beginning that talking about it like really validated that I was making the right decision, I'm not going to stitch on this anymore. This one's going away. Just the process of saying this out loud. Yeah, this working on this piece has been entirely about like my ego and like making something so special for them, but like me making it and it kind of being about me and not really about them and like their anniversary. And so what I actually need to do is do something much more simple and much more in line with their taste and their interest and giving that to them instead. And also, because it is much more simple and would probably be much smaller, I could get it done in a much more shorter period of time, and then I would be a lot less worried about the time crunch of it. Yeah, okay, now that I've spoken that all out loud, like, that's what I'm gonna do. But I might pull some of the motifs from this to do, because, like, this border, I really loved. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to make my parents a band sampler for their anniversary, and it's not going to be from any chart, and it's going to be pulling motifs from both samplers that they've had or someone has made for them at various times in their life, and utilizing those motifs, and then also utilizing motifs that I find really interesting and just stitching those on it. Okay, that's really all I have to say. That's all. You're never going to see this again. Thanks for listening. Say goodbye to Everflowering Garden by Forest Embroidery, which I started to be an anniversary sampler for my parents, and it's like not even a 6th or a 7th or an 8th of the way done. She's going away forever. She's going to a farm upstate. Okay, that's the whole Flosstube. That is it. I thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone who watches my videos and talks in the comments about them, and we communicate and we chat and we gab and we laugh and we hem and we ha. I hope you have it will probably be, no, it won't quite be fall by the next time I see you. But I do need to say that I will be taking part in Sampler September, like I do every year, and I will exclusively be stitching samplers for the month of September. I'm not touching a single other project, and I will be starting something new on September 23rd for my birthday, which will also be a sampler because it's Sampler September. And the piece that I will be, I've talked about this before. On my birthday, I will start Ramoncita Pita by European Reproduction Samplers Berlin, and I will be stitching it on 40 count mallow with 100 threes. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. Bye, y'all. I know my eye's really itchy, but I can't scratch my eye crazy like I did with my nose. I just think the window's open right here and it's a weird breeze and that smoke smell because somebody's barbecuing or my house is burning down. Okay, bye.